Welcome to the Big Biz Show. Taking care of business. You want fast-talking, hard-hitting discussions on business and finance? Maybe with a barroom slant and some really salty peanuts? We're not counting calories. We're counting cash. Before we get to the man with the financial plan, meet the money team. Costa, Mary, and Greg. Now Captain Finance himself, Sully.
It is the Big Biz Show, live from the Loft 100 studios here in beautiful, sunny Southern California. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, we certainly appreciate you being along for the ride. I don't know where Sully and Greg are today. Mary?
MIA.
I knew we had a show to do. You obviously knew we had a show to do.
I knew. I'm here. I'm ready. Maybe they flew to Paris.
DTT, the greatest in the business, obviously knew we had a show to do.
Hey.
Our Emmy Award-winning executive producer, Jared Coleman, did.
He knew.
And
he showed up.
All of the great people behind the scenes here who make this show possible did. Sully and Greg, they didn't. But we will soldier on
I'm ready.
Without them. You know, speaking of Curtis, who is one, we have an incredible team, and they are the spine of this show under this whole organization. I sit up here with my big belly and my fat face, and I talk. That's all I do. It's the people behind the scenes here who make this thing run beautifully. Curtis is one of those people, and he's been here a long time. And he was asking me, like, what does the word stadium come from? And I think it's stadia. It's either Roman or Greek. And then we start talking about, the Olympics, and started in Greece and blah, blah, blah. Are you watching the Olympics at all?
No, not a lot. Not as much as I should be.
Okay.
Or much as I would like to, because I'm just busy.
Yeah.
I can hear you guys are slave drivers. So I think that what I'm doing is I'm following on Instagram. I'm following a lot of the Olympic athletes. I'm following, NBC Sports and all the different things. I'm following like all the highlights and the things that go on. So this guy, Steve, I can't even pronounce his last name. They call him the nerd on the, do you know who I'm talking about? He's the pommel horse guy.
Oh,
he's insane.
We call those gymnasts.
Well, gymnasts, but they call him the gymnast nerd. Can you guys look this up? Because this is the thing. He looks really nerdy, but he's so joyful, and he's so good at what he does. And he understood the assignment, showing up and just doing his pommel horse. I don't know what, I don't know if they have the medal yet. But I know they've qualified. But anyway, he's incredible.
Yeah.
You guys know what I'm talking about?
James, Brian, Trace, have you guys watched any of the Olympics, since they have
since it started?
Just a bit, yeah. Just a bit,
speaking of opening, I actually want to talk about this. Anyone see Celine Dion?
Yes.
Solange Dion, yeah.
Oh, and then so I just watched her documentary. You got to watch the documentary first and then go back and watch
Did you hear the latest about her, what she was singing from the Eiffel Tower?
No, what?
The theme to Ratatouille. What the hell is that?
What's a French movie?
I'm just kidding.
Oh, God. I don't think that was the theme, but I got suckered into that. Hook, line, and frickin' sinker.
Okay, so I really haven't been paying attention. I gotta be honest with you. You just, you lose sight, and I want America to do well, of course, and I did watch a little Japan versus kind of China in men's gymnastics as they're doing the all-around and all that crap.
But you missed Steve the nerd.
Yes, I missed Steve the nerd.
All right.
I did watch handball.
Oh.
And it's not glove, little black ball like we're kind of used to. It's basically an hour of PE from your class in high school. And France is touting their greatest Olympic athlete is this guy who's been playing handball for, 20, 24 years. It's PE. Our Sergeant at Arms, Matt Chess, is a coach and is coach forever. He will tell you that is nothing more than PE in the Olympics.
But it's a sport now.
It is a sport.
Did I hear that breakdancing is going to be at the Olympics?
Breaking is a sport.
It is, right?
In there, yeah.
It is,
This year?
Yeah.
Heck yeah, I got to tune into that.
Just got to bring your own cardboard for your shoulder spans and the whole 9 yards. But yes, it is a sport. All right, we got a big show for you coming up today. Like I said, we are glad you are here along for the ride. We are going to talk a little finance with our Big Biz Show financial analyst, Howie Fun.
Best hair in the biz.
Stay here. to coast in the United States of America, in Mexico on Bloomberg Financiero. Also in Europe on Bloomberg EU, in over 175 countries, all the ships at sea. On the American Forces Network, it is the Big Biz Show. Hope you guys are having a great day. Costa, Marybird, Godwin. Of course, we have the beautifully talented Day Trader Trio. Thanks everybody for being along for the ride.
Is that the theme song to Ratatouille they're playing over there?
Okay, first off, it's not Ratatouille, it's Ratatouille.
Ratatouille.
No,
I've never seen it. I don't know anything about it. I just know it's got a mouse and some.
And ma'am, your order tonight, I would like to try the Ratatouille.
Ratatouille. It sounds better.
Yeah.
I think.
If I sound a little snuffly up, I snuffled whatever. I just got back from the East Coast, and one of the little rugrats in our house had a cold. And then my buddy got it, and then I have it. So
and he's passing it to me currently.
Yeah, as I'm coughing on Mary during the breaks. Let's talk a little finance with our financial analyst from the Big Biz Show, one Howie Font, back with us here.
Hey,
Howie, my friend, great to see you. It's been a while. How are you?
Doing great. Happy to be on Nunya. It's quieter.
it is quieter. It's so peaceful.
You know, H, one of the great things about Nunya Business is that it's a team effort, and we will let you talk as long as you want. Talk to us about Ford and the long goodbye. What's happening to this beloved American brand?
Yeah, I thought it was a point worth making because I had an emotional reaction last week. Earnings came out for Ford, and the stock dropped 20%. And,
wow.
You know, the auto companies have been bailed out. We've heard about Detroit. It is on an uptrend now, but not the traditional car companies. They're not the reason for that. So I thought we should just talk about, the life cycle of companies and really look at some of the data. Because not only did it drop, but Morgan Stanley also today actually said their favorite auto pick was Tesla and to leave traditional autos. So it's kind of a bellwether in the investment community.
Okay.
So I went in and I dug in and I looked and I saw that in the 1950s, the average company stayed on the S&P for 65 years. That's how long they had been there.
Okay.
In the 70s, that dropped down to 35 years. And now it's less than 20 years companies stay on the S&P. So
really?
Yeah. So then I went through and we've discussed Circuit City before. Everyone knows Blockbuster. Think of gas stations changing. And there really is a lot of turnover in the economy. And then you have to ask, isn't it kind of sad you're losing American brand names?
Sure.
Yeah.
So do we know what the cause was of that huge drop for Ford?
Yeah, they didn't make as much money as people were expecting, and they particularly didn't do well with their electric vehicle EV sales. So I think it's mostly because people don't want EVs necessarily. They kind of just want Teslas.
Okay, Howie, that you mentioned that, and Elon Musk has done an incredible job, obviously, with Tesla, and we are a Tesla family. My son recently just bought one. Is it because the EV mandates were force-fed to companies like Ford and Chevrolet, other car makers out there here in the United States, and people want the choice? I'm not sure if you agree with me or not, but don't people want that choice? Hey, if I want to buy an electric car, I'm not going to have the government tell me what I'm going to drive.
No, I completely agree. I mean, I think that's definitely true. I don't know if it's the cause for Ford's current calamity.
Okay.
So the government did set those mandates. They set mile per gallon mandates that increase every year. So the fleet of cars that each company makes has to average out to a certain level of miles per gallon, 55, I think, right now. So you have to have a lot of EVs to kind of pull the average up. If you have a lot of low mile per gallon trucks or hauling vehicles or something like that, you have to balance it out with EVs. So there is that aspect of it. The other aspect, personally, I think, is electric vehicles do better in cities. ICE vehicles, internal combustion engine vehicles, do worse in cities and better on highways. And I think it's a rural-urban thing. And then I think there's the cultural aspect of it, too. So, no, people definitely shouldn't be forced to make the choice. But in Ford's case, this wasn't that. This was they're not good at selling EVs yet. So,
Howie, I know Mary's got a question in a second here about investing for her daughter, but you sent over a pretty cool looking graph, and if you could explain that to us, I'm assuming it has to do with companies. Well, it's top 10 Fortune 500 companies, and you talk about where Ford is, and is that good for Ford still, or no, not at all?
No, I mean, you're seeing, if you look at that, it goes kind of quick.
Yeah.
But you're seeing Ford grow the entire time, but not grow at pace with the rest of the economy. And I sent this over just because I want people to understand that this turnover is natural. It's happening, and the kinds of businesses that are there. In the beginning of that chart, you see oil and gas companies, the large car companies, people selling big expensive products, people that are selling the fuel for those big expensive products. And by the end of it, it switches to technology companies, to Walmart, to scaled retail stores. So things shift in the economy all the time, and the names are never going to change. And we shouldn't get comfortable or get disappointed like I did last week at one company declining, because the nature of our economy is something's going to come take its place.
Howie, I'm going to just totally derail this conversation for a second because
Let's switch gears.
I'm switching gears. Speaking of cars, because I have a moment with you, I'm going to use this as a little personal advice segment. So, but my daughter, who's
Do we have to run a disclaimer?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But my daughter, who's under 18, but she just got some money through this dance competition thing, and a big check's coming to her, and I put it right to her bank account, and I thought, I know that I should be doing something really good with this. We have her 529 set up and all this stuff for college, but I also know that younger generations are like curious about Robinhood and all these investing apps, and there's just so many things coming in my feed. So from the youthful perspective, is there some sort of advice of what you would say for these younger kids that are working and getting money, to start out, and where they should put that big chunk of money?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, what a great position for your daughter to be in. Has a little extra cash. She's not in charge of any rent responsibilities yet, I'm assuming.
Right. And I just don't want it to all go to her, Starbucks drinks and her fast fashion habits.
I have seen a couple cases of this and can diagnose the problem.
I knew I came to the right place.
Listen, I think it's a mental issue at this level of personal finance, not really math driven, but we can use math to help it. So let's establish a baseline level of spending, something reasonable. Let's go back at the last 3 bank statements and say, from now on, I'm going to spend, 80. It's all junk because you said there's no rent, there's no utilities or anything like that at her age. So it's all, frivolous, but important psychologically and just to have a life spending. Let's go back, average out the last 3 bank statements for the last 3 months, say we're going to spend 80% of that, and you can keep 2-3 months worth of cash in your checking account, that amount of money at a time. The rest of it, let's put it in savings, one money market fund for short-term cash that you might need. If you're, going to have an emergency expense, it's going to come out of this pile of money. Let's put that in the money market fund, and we've discussed that on the show before. And then everything beyond that, hey, let's just invest it. Let's try and dabble in the S&P 500, SPY.
Should she try? Yeah. I mean, I don't use an app like a Robinhood or anything like that. So is that something that this younger generation is having success with, or would you stay away from something like that?
Well, I think the apps make it really easy. I think probably going on a computer and setting up an E-Trade account or a Robinhood or something like that is the thing to do. But if it's on an app, you tend to check it every day. You tend to be anxious about it. If you're going to use the app to set up the account and fund it and get it invested, do all that, and then just delete it. And then go log in on the computer once a month, once every 3 months. This is long-term cash to be set aside. And then the other thing is, I don't know about your daughter, Mary, but if she's working at all, if she has any earned income, then let's try and use as many years of lower wages while you're eligible to do a Roth IRA contribution. So just make sure that gets done.
That's the tip I'm looking for right there. Yeah.
He is our Big Biz Show market analyst. Always enjoy our time with Mr. Howie Font. Little personal financial insight for you. Howie, thanks as always for the visit. We'll talk to you next week, brother. Thank you.
Thanks.
Howie.
All right, Howie Font, Big Biz Show market analyst. Much more of the Big Biz Show coming up after this. Humming along from the Loft 100 studios, we are located in beautiful, sunny Southern California. It is the Big Biz Show. Costa, Marybert Godwin. And of course, that great sound you're hearing comes to you from the Day Trader Trio.
I can't help but grooving. I'm just in here
Always. I think that's the first time I've actually been able to say Day Trader Trio. I always trip up on it. Especially when I'm standing in for Sully. I'm like, Day Trader Trio.
Are you nervous? Do you get nervous back there or what?
No, I don't.
Are you shaking?
No, not at all. I don't get
Just
nervous
sneezing
anymore.
on me, that's all.
I mean, there's joyful anticipation, but there's not apprehension. I always think it's good. And Trio, do you get nervous before a gig? Doesn't matter the crowd, doesn't matter the venue. You still get performance butterflies?
Absolutely, I do.
Which is that a good thing?
It depends on what's happening, too.
Okay, right.
Yeah, it depends on the show.
All right. If no one's holding a gun to your head, though, you're still like, okay.
I steal every time.
Yeah, I get butterflies for a show. Sure.
I do too, yeah.
And I hope I never stop.
Right.
Because that's when you're going to screw up.
That's why we do this. I mean, that's why I first fell in love with performing at a young age on the stage was the butterflies and the nerves.
And doing jazz hands.
Oh, I did so many jazz hands. Oh, you better believe it. I'm pretty good.
Hey, if you ever miss an edition of the Big Biz Show, just go to BizTV.com. You can see this beautiful face there anytime you would like. Joining us right now, he is a social media keynote speaker, the owner of Impact Social Media Incorporated. Mr. Corey Perlman is back with us here on the Big Biz Show. Corey, how you doing, my friend?
Excellent, my friend. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on back with us. What's going on? Are you on LinkedIn?
I am, and I just saw this on our notes for you, Corey. I'm excited to see this. What's going on with LinkedIn is changing and becoming more like Instagram and TikTok. Huh? Tell us about this.
Yeah, I want to bring you all the latest and greatest things that are happening. And so around March of this year, LinkedIn decided to start acting more like TikTok and Instagram. And so they're now rolling it out through the summer and into the fall, and people will be able to navigate videos on LinkedIn very similar to the way they do TikTok and Instagram. And unfortunately, for some of us, it makes it more like those two platforms, even though we like LinkedIn as itself and not those other platforms.
Yeah. Corey, to that point, with X and Instagram and TikTok and all that, you can state your mind. It doesn't matter what you want to talk about. You can kind of put your flag in the sand and say, this is how I feel. LinkedIn seems to have always been that we're just going to keep it business contacts, people you can interact with, maybe people that you can, make some money with down the road. But I'm starting to see, as we get closer to the election,
the political
mindset of a lot of the people that I follow or I see on LinkedIn is starting to bleed into that as well. You see it the same way?
I have a phrase that I use for LinkedIn for people. It's be yourself at work.
Oh,
and there's
that's
a big
awesome.
Key difference there, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Huge.
Yeah, so I am seeing what you're seeing. I don't like it either, but I will tell your listeners and your viewers that it is important to be yourself and that we engage more the more we see of you, human photos, real authentic stuff, but leave the political stuff, the vacation photos, leave that for Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
Actually, that segues into one of my questions for you. Is I think we've talked about this with you before, but it's an important topic, which is this buzzword of authentic, and you just touched upon it. Because it's interesting for a brand, how do they be authentic without maybe being polarizing, or is that okay? I mean, sometimes, Nike certainly has taken lots of stands in how they are, and people love Nike, and the people are going to buy Nike, regardless of that or not, but it doesn't really affect their bottom line. But for a smaller business, what does that look like, being authentic, and how can small business owners take that and leverage that on social media?
Let me give you a quick example. It's usually the best way I can describe it. And this is a dentist office out in California near you guys. It's a bunch of dentists. And what they do is the first thing they do to be authentic is to show the dentist personal side. Oftentimes we see them just in the chair. They got the mask on. They're super whatever. But we get to see a little fun side. So they'll play some games, like they'll point to whomever's like the one who comes in latest or never pays for lunch, and have some fun with the dentist, which is cool. Seeing some of the behind the scenes, that kind of thing. That's a way to be authentic and not have to take a stance or do anything that you're uncomfortable with. It's just showing a little bit more of what's going on in the office and behind the scenes.
Corey Perlman is the owner of Impact Social Media Incorporated. You can check him out, CoreyPerlman.com and ImpactSocialMedia.com as well. Corey, if I'm about to launch my widgets company, and obviously social media has to be a major component of success for me as far as marketing and advertising what I'm doing. Is there a golden rule, or is there the first hurdle, the first step that is all important in doing so?
Yes, fish where the fish are. And what I simply mean by that is figure out who your customers and prospects are before ever planting your flag on a social media site. Because if your customer is 40 and above, then TikTok is about as far away from your strategic plan as possible.
Slightly.
If they are, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about that. I feel like before with you is that a lot of people think that they need to be on TikTok because that's where it is. But a lot of, the TikTok base is going to be the younger crowd, stereotypically speaking, and they're not necessarily buying. They're doing the dances and they're laughing and they're sharing, but they're not necessarily buying the product, depending on what it is. So that is, one thing people need to look at, like what you were saying. Where is your demographic? Where's your audience? And where are your purchasers?
And the problem is yes, there are exceptions to the rule, but if you prioritize TikTok, then you're taking resources and time away from a platform like LinkedIn. That might be your golden ticket. So what I always tell people is to prioritize 2 platforms based upon who your audience is. And oftentimes those are LinkedIn and Instagram, something to that effect, or maybe it's TikTok and Pinterest, depending upon who your demographic is.
Corey, do you have a lot of people, a lot of big name companies that are contacting you and having you and your team basically, steer their social media ship?
Yes, we have a lot of companies that ask us, for strategic advice and direction and things of that nature, and just help with some of their folks, because a lot of people who are coming up in the world of social media didn't know the other side of some of the 40 and above and what we're more comfortable seeing and engaging with. And then I'm also young enough to be able to have been a part of the generation that grew up with social media as well, so I can kind of fit both sides.
Along those lines, Corey, do you think that companies should invest in somebody that works with them internally to be their social media person, rather than, or maybe in addition to hiring an agency? Because there seems to be, you can get more of that authenticity if you have a voice within the company. Do you think that's true?
I definitely think that's true. If you can, in a perfect world, you have an internal person, but it's not always a perfect world. And in those cases, you hire people to be your heavy lifters.
CoreyPerlman.com and ImpactSocialMedia.com. He is the social media keynote speaker, the owner of Impact Social Media, Corey Perlman. Corey, always appreciate the visit, enlightening us more about the social media world. Speaking of the world, the Big Biz Show world comes back right after this.
Loft 100 Studios, The Big Biz Show, our affiliates, and our hosts are not registered investment advisors or broker-dealers. Our show hosts make no commitment that the purchase of securities of companies profiled or otherwise mentioned in our programming
are suitable or advisable for any persons, or that investment in such securities would be profitable in general.
Given the nature of our company's profile and the lack of an active trading market for their securities, and investing is highly speculative and carries a high degree of risk. We profile selected publicly traded and privately held companies on our program.
Most of these companies that we profile have provided compensation to Loft 100 Studios and its host for the profile coverage.
3, 2, 1.
From time to time, we sell shares of the companies profiled in the open market that we receive as compensation for coverage of client companies.
but never sell stock if we are speaking about, interviewing, or covering a public company who has paid compensation.
Specific questions on compensation can be obtained by contacting producer at sullyandgroup.com.
Listeners should verify all claims and do their own due diligence before investing in any securities mentioned on this program.
Investing in securities is speculative and carries a high degree of risk.
We encourage our investors to invest carefully. Duh.
And read the investor information available on the website.
On the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, at www.sec.gov.
Or the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, FINRA, at www.finra.org.
The Big Biz Show. We are live from the Loft 100 studios. Wherever you're watching, wherever you are listening, we are so appreciative of you being along for the ride. Costa, Marybird, Godwin with you. Sully and Greg, we're still trying to track them down. We don't know where they are. But you just soldier on without them, of course. We've got the DTT rocking it as usual with us. They're along for the ride. Joining us right now in studio is one of our all-time favorite guests, Mr. Bob Babbitt, co-founder of the competitor magazine, Babbitttville Radios, where we can hear you talk about everything. Also, the Challenge Athletes Foundation, and certainly Challenge Athletes, something very near and dear to your heart.
Absolutely.
And you have been a standard bearer for all those incredible people for such a long time. Talk about your friends, Derek and Elijah.
It's such a cool story. We just did a video piece on the two of us. So Derek Loxodent was a football player at University of Central Oklahoma.
Okay.
Got run over by a train after a game. We actually had 9 tackles in that game.
Unbelievable.
Lost his leg below the knee. Came back to play football again.
No
right?
way.
At the university. Then he finds track and field. The person who runs our para track and field program, Joaquin Cruz, reaches out and says, hey, have you ever thought about track and field? And in a couple of weeks, he'll be going to Paris doing the long jump, high jump, and 100 meters.
Whoa.
He just qualified at the trials. But the fascinating part is Elijah Schultz, who was born in Ghana, missing a leg below the knee, fingers on both hands, and toes on one foot. And he was adopted by the family out of Joplin, Missouri, comes to the U.S., and he's now 12 years old. He's the star quarterback of his football team.
Of course
he's
he
a
is.
center fielder and pitcher on his baseball team. And in the past, we've always had athletes like Landis Sims and Parker Bird who made their teams. This kid's a star.
Wow.
He's 12 years old. He's deadlifting 3 times his body weight. He's amazing. And the cool part is when he was 8 years old, he was down at a track meet down in Oklahoma called the Endeavor Games. That was Derek's first ever track meet.
Oh, wow.
And the two of those guys became buddies, and now Elijah is basically Derek 2.0.
Wow.
And the video piece we just did that Eric Cochran, who produced the Landis Sims movie, it's phenomenal. It's just phenomenal.
And where can we see that?
Actually, we'll be putting it out on CAF on our YouTube channel very shortly.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, but what's really cool about it is mom, his adoptive mom, they're sitting at dinner when he's a little boy, and mom is like, Elijah, you don't have to eat so fast. It's not a race. And she goes, Elijah looked at me straight in the face, goes, Mom, everything's a race.
It's a race. It's just wired in it, huh?
It's totally wired like that.
And
And he and Derek are the same.
When did he connect with CAF?
So we got Elijah a running leg when he was 4 years old.
Wow.
And there's actually pictures in the video of him sleeping with, cuddling up with the leg. He was so excited about that. But I met Derek a few years ago. Joaquin Cruz called me and said this young man needs travel expenses to get to a track meet. And we took care of travel expenses. Next thing you know, this kid is becoming a rock star. At the World Championships, he took a silver in the long jump, silver in the high jump, and a bronze in 100 meters, and a seventh in the javelin. Since he was there, might as well throw the javelin.
Yeah,
Bob Babbitt from the Challenge Athletes Foundation with us here in studio. As I always say, and I sincerely mean this, the stories that you come with, it's one of the reasons why you're one of our favorite guests.
Really?
We were talking before we came back from break about the cost, like you mentioned, someone getting a prosthetic leg or a sprinter's
it's a
leg,
running leg. Yeah,
a running leg. And you and I were talking about the exoskeleton. I guess business is booming now. We saw someone carrying the torch for the opening games in Paris. How is that changing what you guys do as far as you're raising money, raising funds for all these people?
The cool part is technology has changed. If Jim McLaren, the person we started the foundation for, there was no sport for him 30 years ago. Today, he could do power soccer. He could do quad rugby. There's sports for him. The problem is a power soccer chair for a quadriplegic is $10,000.
Yeah.
Off-road
Which is not covered by any sort of...
None of this covered. Nothing's covered. It's considered a luxury item. Off-road e-assist hand cycle. Think about somebody who's paralyzed, and when they get paralyzed and they go for a hike with the family on the trails. Well, on the regular chair, their hands are going in the dirt.
Yeah.
They can't go very far. So you lose half the world. You lose trails.
Yeah.
So now, off-road e-assist hand cycle. 2 years ago, we got one for Amy Van Dyken, who was a 6-time Olympic gold medalist in swimming, was paralyzed in an ATV accident in 2014, and she hadn't been on the trails since. And we got her an off-road e-assist hand cycle, which are $15,000 to $20,000. And she's ripping up the trails, and the smile is you brought trails back to somebody's life and to the family. The whole family.
Technology is allowing more people to come out of the dark, I say, but at the same time,
the cost has gone.
It's making your job a little bit harder because
got to keep raising more money.
Bob, I want this, I want that. Can you help me do that type?
Well, one of the things about the fundraising events that you guys do that I attended is that you get to see where the money is going in real time, because I see the kids come up, you grant them their hand cycles or whatever it may be, and you see the joy, you see the parents crying, and I'll go to events for other things and you donate money, but then it's like goes to some,
research or something.
And you don't actually,
which is awesome.
It's awesome too.
Yes.
But I have been so moved at those Challenge Athletes Foundation events because you see those kids right then and there, and adults and parents and all the things happen right then and there. And then you see them the next day on the cycle.
It's the best thing in the world.
Going up and down the coast.
It's the best thing. It's the best thing in the world.
Bob, have the fundraising opportunities, are they growing, or is it? I mean, for the longest time, oh my God, that poor kid's in a wheelchair.
Right.
Boy, that's terrible. Oh, well, I've got to go on with my life and take care of things. It seems that the world's eyes are open.
Sure.
You can't hide anywhere anymore. Are the fundraising opportunities growing? I mean, exponentially like they should?
Well, the deal is you're always like this year, rather than putting on our $1 Million Challenge ride, which Sully has been a huge supporter of for years and years and years.
Yeah, you're not doing it this year, right?
We're not. We're doing a bike ride. We're doing a women's weekend.
Okay.
We're doing a wine country ride. We're doing a mountain bike event in Colorado.
Oh.
Or a gravel ride, I'm sorry. And a ride in Thailand in January.
What?
Exactly.
Sign him up. Mike wants to go.
So there's.
You have a pizza eating event?
Pizza eating. Right before you ride in Thailand, you have the pizza eating. Then you ride, and then you eat more pizza.
It's a carb load, right?
You got to load up.
Yeah.
You got to load up. But there's all, and then we just had our Celebration of Heart Gala up in San Francisco. We raised $800,000 there.
Wow.
Our Heroes Heart and Hope Gala coming up in September 18th in New York City at Chelsea Pier. And that event has raised over $22 million over the years.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of really cool.
Bob, what's the best place people can go who might see you today or have seen you before with us on the Big Biz Show or know about you? What's the easiest place to go and throw money at you?
Challengedathletes.org. And people, a lot of times they want to come in and volunteer, get a sense of what we do. We've had volunteers who come in and they look at a number of different charities, and we've had some of our volunteers come up and go, I've got a trust fund and here's a $50,000 check. I like to go and make sure that the charity really does what they say they do.
We love you, man.
And they do.
You're the best.
You do.
Mr.
Love
Bob
you, Bob.
Babbitt.
You guys are going to love
What's the website again?
ChallengeDathletes.org.
Send your money into there. Let's go. Let's go take care of everybody. Mr. Bob Babbitt with us. Big Biz Show rolls on after this. We are live in sunny Southern California in the Loft 100 studios. Hope you guys are having a great day. We certainly are. Costa, Marybird Godwin, the Day Trader Trio, the whole amazing crew here at Loft 100. We thank you for being along for the ride. This edition of the Big Biz Show. You ever miss seeing our smiling faces? Go to BizTV.com and check them out. We roll on. When's the last time you got scammed?
I've had a couple close calls recently, but my mom did get a call that was like, she said, Mary, she's 92.
Yeah.
She's like, Mary, the San Diego police called me and they're just requesting money and I can't find my checkbook. I'm like, Mom,
stop.
No. So, we need Steve in our life.
Well, Steve is here. He is from scamicide.com, SCAMICIDE.com. Our good buddy Steve J.J. Weissman back with us, helping us to avoid the pitfalls of these scams out there. Steve, how are you? Good to see you again.
Terrific. Good to see you.
What we've got the whole list that you sent us, and we're very intrigued by a lot of these, especially one Mary wants to get to. What's going on with airline customer service, as if they don't have enough problems already?
Well, that's the issue, because the scammers are always there with whatever is going on in the news, such as, when it was Amazon Prime Day, boy, the scammers, they were responding better than Amazon did. So whatever you're interested in. And so particularly the airlines haven't exactly covered themselves with glory this summer. And then when you had CrowdStrike kind of grounding these planes, a lot of people were really irritated. And what happens is, they'll go on social media and they'll complain about it. And this is where the scammers are monitoring. They're monitoring all kinds of social media. And now with the use of AI, they can do it even more efficiently. So what they do is they see people who have got a complaint with a particular airline. They respond as the airline's customer service. Wow. And they will take you to a link that looks like it's the website for the airline. Even the phone numbers look like they're legitimate. Then they start asking for personal information, and bam, all of a sudden you become a victim of identity theft, or merely even by clicking on the links to their phony websites, you download malware that may be ransomware or keystroke logging malware that'll steal the passwords to your banking. So it's my motto, trust me, you can't trust anyone. You have a problem with the airline, make sure you go to the real airline customer service number. Make sure you go to the real website.
So Delta is not spelled DALTA.com.
Well, another one of my very, very paranoid mottos is things aren't as bad as you think, they're far worse. So if you go to Google and you put in for the search engine for maybe Delta customer service or something, in many instances, what will come up are the phony sites of the scammers.
Yeah.
Sometimes what they do is they're really smart and they can manage the algorithms so that they're going to get up there before the legitimate ones. Other times they're lazy. And in many instances, they will buy as advertising, which is how a lot of search engines make their money, a high position in a search. So you think you're going to Delta, you think you're going to American, and you go into the Yahoo Boys, which is a Nigerian game.
It's so true. I mean, the sponsored results in Google are very scary. I want to ask you about this thing that piqued my interest. So it says Meta takes action against sex extortionists. What's going on here? I don't know about any of this.
Yeah, this has become a really serious problem, and it comes to a great extent. It's been done targeting teenage boys. But what happens is there are a number of ways you get contacted, often through social media, and it seems like people are building a relationship, and then they want you to send them some videos or photos that are a bit too intimate, and bam, it turns out that the person, again, for these young boys, they think they're with a teenage girl online, but instead it's a male Nigerian scammer. And then they extort them for money. And if they don't get paid, they say they will put these pictures up. They'll notify everyone on your contact list. Other times they tell you that they have managed to hack into your webcam.
That's scary.
And actually that can happen.
Right. I've heard that. I've heard a tip where you're supposed to put a piece of tape over your camera if you're not using it. I did that for like a week and it didn't last.
That is the low-tech solution, and it's kind of interesting. I do that. Former FBI Director James Comey does that. And Pope Francis, they saw his laptop. He does that. So I figure if it's good for the former FBI director and the Pope, it's good for me, because it's a real simple way of making sure that your camera is not on unless you want it to be on.
Steve, for the record, I was sending photos because I thought it was a bodybuilding competition. Complete transparency. Steve Weissman, Scamicide.com. He is the scam man. Go there, Scamicide.com, to check out all of the different scams that are going on right now, including what's going on with the Social Security Department.
Well, the interesting thing is always warning people about imposters of Social Security, and that indeed someone's going to try and get you to, again, give them your Social Security number or other information. I got an email from Social Security, so I'm immediately doubtful. It turns out if you have a My Social Security account, which is an online account with Social Security that I advise everybody to do, if you have that, the older accounts have to be shifted over into a new account. So that email you're getting from Social Security is legit. But if you're extra paranoid like me, what you do is you go to the Social Security website directly, and there you click on to how to change it. So that email is probably legit.
Hey, I want to tie in, Steve, to people monitoring Facebook and people posting things on social, because I do know of a friend of mine whose husband passed away, and within 24 hours, people had stolen his identity and were stripping her off and taking her credit cards. And I'm wondering if people are monitoring social media for death notices, or even people that are sick, so they can prey on them, which is just absolutely sick and demented. Are you seeing this happen?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been going on for a long time. I mean, they have, no sense of decency, and they do prey on, there's identity theft of deceased people is a real significant thing. And even, I'm a lawyer and I handle estates, and one of the first things we do is we close down the credit reports and the accounts. They also prey on as you indicated, widows. So it's something you really got to be aware of.
Steve, always appreciate the visit. Check him out, Scamicide.com. We'll talk to you again very soon. Thanks for being with us here on The Big Biz Show. Speaking of that is it for The Big Biz Show. For the Day Trader Trio, the incredible staff here, our Emmy Award-winning director, producer Jared Coleman, Mary Bird Godwin, I'm Costa. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.